part of the effort. We want to share this as much as we can, as broadly as we can. So Cello's just hit the record button, so we should be good to go. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll get things kicked off. There'll probably be a few more people that join us along the way, but I've got a few kind of introductory things to go through. Just like I say, welcome and let the folks that are part of the broader UAIM community or just part of our utility community that haven't been doing this a little bit of background. And while I'm sharing my screen, let me just introduce myself. My name's Dan Ott, and I am the project management section head at KC Water, and I've had the pleasure of really helping facilitate this group. I hate to use the word lead. I mean, this group is a group of leaders, and I've been led by this group and learning as I go. So I've had the joy of getting to facilitate things with this UAIM group. So here we are. We're doing a couple of workshops for the CIP planning and delivery utility improvement initiatives. And we're doing one today, and then we're going to do another one on May 10th. So we got about an hour and a half planned out. And just real quick, here's the rundown for today. Like I said, I'm going to do some welcoming and introductions and a little bit of background on the overall UAIM and how this CIP planning and delivery initiative fits in within the overall context to give you guys an idea of like what have we been doing. And then the main event is really to have some of our utility partners share what they've been working on, what they've been doing within their specific utilities. So we've got two presentations today, two on May 10th, and today we've got DC Water as well as Louisville. And it's pretty cool the way it's lined up. DC Water is going to share some things they've been doing on the business case evaluation and CIP planning side of the business process model that's part of our UAIM, and Louisville is going to focus on the CIP delivery. So you're going to get the full picture of both parts today with the presentations. And then we're going to have some time for some interaction. Hopefully everybody's coffee's kicking in, and we want to get some feedback, particularly from the utility partners that have been participating in this specific effort on how did things go for year two this past year. And so Cello and Scott are going to lead us through that process. And hopefully we'll wrap up within an hour and 25 minutes or so. And as we go through this, I'll be kind of watching the time, but hopefully we'll have some time to be able to have some questions and question and answer as we go through. Does that all sound good to everybody?
Sounds great.
All right, I'm getting some head nods. I was just making sure you guys are awake and listening. All right, so there we go. All right, so just again, as welcome and introductions for this particular part of the UAIM project. Of course, we've got our team that's been leading the overall Water Research Foundation project as part of this UAIM, and that's been led by Cello and Scott Haskins. And also want to give a shout out to Mike Barnett and John Coltis, who've been helping support our team specifically with the business process modeling side of things with their expertise in that area. And all four of these guys have done a fantastic job of supporting us and helping us really do a lot of work behind the scenes. And I want to use the word, they're really servant leaders, and they're also really good at delegating. So Cello quickly delegated to me and Getachew from DC Water, so KC Water and DC Water, to help just do a little work behind the scenes to coordinate these meetings, schedule these meetings, work with our other utility partners to line up some meaningful content for these meetings. And we've also had help from our team with Kathleen at DC Water, as well as Scott Parker and Zach Monroe from our team at KC Water. So I just want to give a little shout out to them. So that's kind of who's been involved in helping put these things together. Now here are the stars of the show right here. We've had 13 utility partners, 13 plus actually. These are the 13 that have been participating regularly in our meetings as part of the CIP planning and delivery effort. A really great group of folks, and really just enjoyed working with everybody there. So wanted to just put that out there and say thank you to that group. All right, so a little bit of background on the UAIM. I think most of everyone on this call, but as we share this more broadly with others, just to kind of give a feel for where does this effort, this initiative on CIP planning and delivery fit into the overall UAIM effort. This slide really kind of captures it. The mission or the goal of UAIM is to provide a value-based methodology for improving management of water sector utilities. So that's really what we've all been working on, no matter what area of UAIM we've been focused on. That's really kind of the big goal. And then how do we do that, or how have we been doing that? And that's what those next two bullets really summarize is we've been working together with peer-to-peer collaboration between water sector utilities, and that's really been the power, I think, of this project, is getting us together and sharing the knowledge and the things that we're wrestling with and that we're struggling with, and getting feedback and conversations and ideas amongst the group, and then ultimately creating a shared knowledge base, a place where we can store these business process models, metrics, and artifacts so that we can leverage the value of sharing with one another with specific things that we can take back to our utilities and implement within our context. So the methodology there is summarized. I think most of us have seen this one many times, but it's about modeling the current conditions, getting the as-is documented, and particularly getting it moved into a business process model, and then analyzing and identifying, hey, where can we make improvements in our current process once we got it laid out? And then starting to identify, well, what do we want this to look like, and designing a proposed process. And then that change management piece comes into play of planning actions for improvement, and then actually implementing those improvements within our utility, and then bring it all the way back and starting all over again. So that was just kind of that quick summary of how I understand UAIM as a utility partner. I see Cello nodding his head like, okay, he's finally learning this stuff after 2 years. So I had to really work on this guy. So again, to give you a little bit of historical background here, we started this effort, at least I got involved with this effort 2 years ago, and several utility partners got involved in 2019 with the year one effort. And that happened in 2019 and 2020. And we really, what we did is we came together as a group, and we had a couple of workshops, one back in the day when we could get together in person. We had to get together in Portland, and then also at the Utility Management Conference in LA in February 2020. And the goal of that group was to let's start using this methodology. And we got together and said, well, let's put together some as-is business process models around areas that are real challenges for utilities. And so there were 4 areas that were picked, and it was CIP planning and business case evaluations, and CIP delivery, and then risk management and asset management. And so we formed some teams, came together and said, well, let's try and document an industry-wide template for a business process model in these areas. And so that's what we did. And it culminated in May of 2020, somewhere in that time frame, with a report, a final report as part of the WRF project that included these industry-wide business process model templates for these various processes, as well as artifacts and just information that we gathered from the various utilities, and put that into a shared knowledge base. When we got to the conclusion of year one, and specifically for the CIP planning and delivery portion, this is what the business process model looked like, and what it looks like as kind of an industry-wide template. We got that put together, and we're like, hey, that looks pretty good. That looks about how it goes at most utilities. But then we were like, okay, well, what are we going to do next? And so for the next year, we said, you know what, let's take this and see how we can actually use it within our specific utility context, and see how we can make some improvements using this methodology within each of our utilities. So that's really what year 2 has been all about. So June, July 2020, whenever we got officially started, we've been working for almost a year now to look at ways we can implement change management improvements within our specific utilities using the UAIM methodology and those year 1 business process model templates to implement some best practices for specific improvement initiatives that each utility picked. So it's really kind of unique. Each of us as utility partners are each working on our own specific efforts. But then we would come together each week or every 2 weeks and share knowledge through presentations on our CIP planning and delivery best practices and challenges that we've been facing and experiences. And to me, that's been the real power of this thing is, we're wrestling through these things with each individual utility and then working on making that happen. And then this is just a snapshot of what we've been working on at KC Water, of like, what does that look like? So you saw, this was the industry-wide template. Well, we took that and said, well, what does that look like here at KC Water specifically? And working with our team and the team, we've developed our own CIP planning and delivery business process model that's specific to us, and more to come on that later. And each utility partner, like I said, has done maybe taken a piece of this and looked at ways to implement. All right, so here we are at the workshop, and we said, well, why are we doing this? So I just want to share with the group. I'm going to start with the why. We laid out some goals and objectives and said, you know what, we wanted to share some of the things we've been working on with the larger UAIM community. And then also, this gives us an opportunity to bring some closure to the improvements we've been working on. So I don't know about you, you get to that 85 or 90% complete, and just pushing it across the finish line can be a real challenge. So, hey, why not do a presentation and throw ourselves out there and use that as a way to kind of wrap it up and celebrate as well. So then also, like I said, at the end, we're going to get some feedback from the group on the past year, as well as wants, needs, and desires for next year, and then also be thinking about some next steps for UAIM. Okay, here we are. I made it. I'm right on schedule, I think, at 9:45. Any comments or questions on all of that before we dive into our specific initiatives? Hopefully I brought enough energy to kind of get everybody awake, ready to go, ready for the main event. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn it over to Getachew and Kathleen and their team. They've got a few others from DC Water to talk about their business case evaluation improvement initiative and the lessons learned from DC Water. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Getachew, you can go ahead and pull up your presentation. While you're doing that, let me just introduce Getachew. He's a professional engineer and a project management, a program management professional, and a senior manager within their planning group. And then Kathleen, also a professional engineer and program manager, a lot of great experience, and she's a senior manager in CIP risk and change management. So with that, Getachew and Kathleen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dan. Very nice introduction. You've been great over the last 9 months, I believe, and we have accomplished a lot, partly because of your leadership, and I would like to appreciate and acknowledge that when we start this presentation. Good morning. For those of you who may not be aware, DC Water was a lead utility in the development of the business process model for the business case evaluation during year 1 of phase 3 of the utility analysis and improvement methodology project. As Dan laid out The business process model developed during year 1 of the BCE and other topics was intentionally kept generic and at a higher level. And this gave flexibility for adoption by utilities like DC Water for their specific business or organizational environment and culture. This presentation that Kathleen and I are going to share with you or present to you shows how DC Water adapted this generic and high-level business process model to improve its business case evaluation process. This is outline of the presentation. Kathleen will do the analysis of the as-is business BCE model and then the development of the desired or the to-be business case evaluation model, and I will cover the rest. Dan and I didn't talk about acknowledging the people who have helped us from the get-go. I believe Dan and I joined this team back in the summer or spring of 2019, so we've been here for 2 years. And we've seen that the project team, Cello, Scott, Mike, and John have contributed a lot for the success of this project. I would like also to thank partners, utilities, and our own project team. It's just amazing to work with these people and with this group of people. So it was very blessed to have them and to work with them. So we start with what Dan explained, I believe, to a good detail. This is what came out of the year 1 effort. This is a collapsed CIP planning and delivery process from identify needs all the way to close projects. So this, I will say something that Dan didn't cover, which is how the CIP planning or the BCE process and the CIP delivery come together. The CIP planning, which is a BCE, and the CIP delivery were or are 2 of the 4 selected topics for track number 2. The other 2 are developing asset management plans and enterprise risk management. The CIP planning, which includes the BCE and the CIP delivery topics, were amalgamated to create one CIP planning and delivery process. This decision helped us to use the same terminology, same swim lane names, and what's done at what stage, and development of list of requirements, which we call checklist, to be made at each stage gate. So there is a consistent naming, a consistent terminology, and the consistent stage gates from start to end, and that proved to be very beneficial. The CIP planning and delivery process has at least 9 activities, tasks shown as sub-processes and 9 gates. The process starts from, as I said, identify needs and ends at stage gates. So we try to map our current CIP delivery process with the high-level CIP delivery process that I showed in an earlier slide. Even though the process is not properly documented and detailed, we have very similar process at DC Water. Like stage 0 is what we call completion of the project validation form. Stage 1 is annual CIP baseline when scheduled and funds are set. Stage 2 is when decision on sourcing and delivery method is made. And then stage 3 is concept finalization report and design lock-in. So very much, they go in parallel, even though our processes are not standardized using business process modeling and notification or notation approach. So we have very much similar type of process going on here at DC Water. This slide shows the expanded processes of identify needs process and approved CIP process. which includes prioritization. As you can see here, this is the expanded form of the first stage 0 and stage 1 of the previous presentation, or the previous slide. If you see slide, this green circle, it says prioritize CIP projects. That's where the BCE is located. If you go into that CIP prioritization or prioritize CIP projects process, you will see conduct BCE here. So basically, the prioritization involves the for some projects conducting a business case evaluation, and that's where our presentation is. So one of the key features of the UM project is that it includes a methodology that consists of 5 steps, and those 5 steps are shown here in this conceptual diagram. As I said previously, year 1 of the focus in year 1, the focus was on developing generic high-level business process, which is the first 3 steps here, and document current condition, identify items for improvement, and design to be model. The high-level BCE model developed during year 1 may not be good to adapt and use as they are. They need refinement. Per project year 2 work plan, scope of year 2 improvement initiative, describe the work that will be conducted by utility partners. And that's where everything, we took the direction from that document and develop our own work plan. Because the DC Water selected the BCE improvement for improvement, we just follow the outline, as I said. The scope of this improvement could be summarized as streamline, improve, and optimize DC Water's existing business process using the EM business reference model developed for the CIP planning and delivery. The first thing we did was we developed a project planning document that captured problem statement, objectives, scope, project team, project sponsors, roles and responsibilities, schedule, deliverables, and success criteria. The project team is composed of 5 departments, people from 5 departments, from engineering and operations departments. They provided input include scope definition, as is process evaluation, and identification of improvement areas. The project sponsors approved the project on August 3, 2020. And the project team has been meeting regularly since August 12, and project team participated at meetings, workshops, and updated existing artifacts. The last time we met with our project sponsor was on March 19. That basically concludes the main deliveries of the initiative or the project. This is a project team, as you can see. It is how it is structured. There is a project manager. These are some of them are here attending this workshop, and then we all report to the sponsors. One person, Dr. Mike, is included in here because he helped us significantly in the preparation of the business process with the help of Mike Barnes. So now I will hand over the presentation to Kathleen, and she will do the next 2 sections of the presentation. Thank you.
Do you want me to share the presentation?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, let me open it up. Sorry about that. I didn't.
Probably might have to ask for control.
Yeah, let me just, I want to open the presentation first. I didn't realize. Where did I put this?
He can use my screen. Just ask for control.
Yeah, I thought I did that, but it
Didn't
disappeared.
come.
Yeah. Are you still sharing?
Yeah, do I need not to share?
I don't see.
Oh. Should be shared.
Hitachi could share, Kathleen, and then you just tell them when to advance the slides.
Yeah, I apologize.
I gave you control.
Okay, great. Thank you. And again, apologize. So how do I make this? Can I make this full screen?
Oh, let me make that for you. All right.
Okay. So here we are. And everybody see, what do people see now?
Analysis of the as-is BCE process.
Okay. Why advance this? Right? I have to ask you to advance it, Hitachi?
No, you can click. You should be able to advance. If not, I will. Okay, continue.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm really sorry about this. Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody. So the as-is process, first we looked at what do we currently do and analyzed that before we went into the 2B. This is the guidance and the tool and the process. CH2M back in 2016 had a consultant contract with DC Water and developed this, and we're still using it now. So this is our as-is process, and I'm just going to walk through the flow chart in the middle. It's pretty much the same as the business process models in the BCE, but we'll go through the details of our improvement initiative. So the top blue oval is the opportunity need statement. So that's the very first thing, is to define, what is the problem that you're trying to solve. That's a key, very key part of any successful business case evaluation. Oftentimes people wonder about when do you need to do, which projects need a BCE. If you struggle with defining the opportunity need statement, you probably do need a business case evaluation. The gray boxes are really what are the alternatives, what are the options that you have to meet that need, and defining those parameters before you start. The green on the left is the financial analysis. Criteria, you establish the criteria and scoring it, and then the orange on the right are the non-monetary criteria, the social, environmental, and so forth. And then the purple in the middle is when you take that scoring and you put it together. The gray decision box after that is sometimes when you go through the scoring, you realize that you need to change the inputs, whether it's your opportunity statement or your alternatives definition, or the amount of alternatives that you need to look at, whether you need to go back and look at something else. There's a loop for that. And then the final purple box is writing the report, and then you're done. So you can go to the next one, Getachew. So this is what we did. First thing we did was ground truth the as is. Is this true or false? As we had mapped them as is in year one, we went through with the BCE team, which again, Getachew mentioned, great team we have from DC Water. These are people who have actually used the process, will use it, definitely very invested, but they're also, people who are very interested in improving things and making things better. So we had a really great experience with the team. This part was true. Go ahead to the next one, Getachew. That's kind of where it fits in. The sub-process on the annual CIP update was true. The BCE sub-process was true. Go to the next one. The need statement, they noticed a couple things that needed to be tweaked on that, how we had mapped the as is. Our guidance had said that there's an opportunity report. It's really not a report, it's just a statement. And then the team doesn't write it, it's written by the lead, and then the team agrees with it or provides feedback. So that was a little adjustment to our as is. The alternative sub-process was true. You can go to the next one. And then in the financial and the non-monetary analysis, there was what I showed before in that high-level flow chart. There's a a loop back after you do the scoring. And it was mentioned that oftentimes you go back to the BCE inputs before you even get to the scoring piece. So we put those loops back in the as is. And then the preferred alternative sub-process is when you get to the very last step. The little box said the BCE team selects the preferred alternative. And there was some reaction that makes it sound a lot easier than it is. The tool does not spit out like this is the highest scoring alternative. It shows you the criteria and the weighting and the scoring and the cost and all that information. It's very nice graphics in there so you can see everything, but it doesn't give you an answer. The answer still has to come from judgment. So we wanted to edit that to say it builds consensus on the selected alternative rather than selecting, to give some credence to the fact that it's not a simple point, throw the dart kind of thing. And then the yellow box we added, this was while we were evaluating the as is, but this was mentioned that for the 2B, we needed an escalation process in here. So you can go to the next one, Getachew. So these we can just toggle through. This is just the putting everything that we validated in those workshops into the models. So you can go through these, Getachew, and the next one, just forward. All right, so now we're into the 2B, and what we did is we got the team looked at the guidance, they looked at the tool, they looked at a couple of BCEs that had been done by different teams, and made suggestions about the improvements. So we came up with this list of things to revise, things to add, and we assigned a principal author and then a reviewer, and these are the names of the people on the team. Everybody took a piece of it. You can go to the next one, Getachew. And we divided up what really needed to be updated. So a lot of these things, once we decided what the improvements would be, how would we communicate that? So the guidance document needed to be updated, almost everything, the tool and some of the things, and the process model and some of the things. So the guidance document has been updated, and that's in the artifacts. The tool we haven't really gotten to yet, but we'll go through the process model today on what changes were there. So we didn't change where the BCE occurs. We did acknowledge that it may occur in different places throughout the process. You might need to revise it, certainly during planning before you get to a project validation, it may occur, but we'll go through the timing in a minute. So go ahead, Getachew. So what we added here on the left-hand side is when to do the BCE, which projects would require a BCE. And the next slide shows in a little bit more readable format. But again, this is the modeling on the left-hand side that goes how you go through the decision tree. And the big loop on the top is the judgment override. When we showed this to the sponsors and we talked about which projects need a BCE, one of the directors made a great comment and said, I know it when I see it. If the project comes to me, I know whether it needs a BCE or not. So we put that loop in there that the first thing is if the director says we need a BCE, we do a BCE. You don't even have to go through the criteria. On the other side of the coin, if it goes through and meets all the criteria, we present it to the director and he decides maybe it doesn't need a BCE after all. So we have about 300 projects in DC Water CIP. The first set of criteria we came up with, we ended up with 165. We try to automate it with our Primavera P6 software just by dates and dollars. So we added some more criteria. We took some things that we couldn't automate and added them, and we got down to about 18. So that's what we're going to test right now. Those 18 projects, when they go through the process and they go up to the directors, if that will seem reasonable for projects that need the BCE. So you can go to the next one. The other thing that we added that wasn't in before is the conduct training on the BCE. So one of the things is we establish the BCE team, we kind of give them the guidance and say, go here, score this, do this. And people thought that there was really a great need to have a more formal training at the beginning of the process so people understand the tool and what we're trying to do. So we added that in. And the other thing we added in our improvement initiative was the escalation. So when we went to the sponsors and showed them the escalation process, which you'll see in the next slide, they said that's too late. We don't want to get it all the way to the end and then come back and there's too much rework. So what we added is as soon as the alternatives are developed, we go to the BCE review committee. So the additional participants, which is new. We used to just have a BCE team. Now we have a BCE review committee, and that's really directors from the user group as well as the engineering group, because they usually look at things from a different point of view because they have different, criteria that their performance is met based on. So we want to get the BCE review team, which is kind of a higher level. They look at the alternatives and make comments on them before we proceed. So the next slide shows the financial and non-monetary. That all stayed the same. Go to the next one. This is the escalation process. So the BCE team presents the report to the BCE review team, and if there's a consensus with the BCE team and they say we recommend alternative A, and the BCE review team says yep, that looks good, then you proceed with the project as alternative A. If there's not a consensus within the team, they can just present the report as it's developed with the rankings and so forth. So the BCE team can then select. If there's not a consensus among the BCE review team, it can get escalated to their boss. So that's the process that the improvement initiative that we established. So right now we are testing all of these three things: the criteria, the training, and the escalation. And we'll let you know what happens. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kathleen. The next one is transitioning from the as-is to the to-be. So we are done with the business process model as stands now. It's good, but there is always improvement. There is always adjustment as we use it, and as inputs come in, we'll continuously update it. But there are other things that we are working on because the project time was end of May. So we have time until we finalize with what we are working on. The first one is a BCE guide document. It's more or less done, but it is expecting our final review. The BCE tool is a little bit, complex because the tool that we use belonged to CH2. Now we have to have our own tool based on to reflect whatever change that we made. The other one is, Kathleen mentioned about training. So we need to prepare training materials, and our SOP is also has to consider the BCE and whatever we have changed. So that SOP should be updated. So these are the things that we need to do before end of May. When it comes to implementation, we have a two-step implementation because the time limitation and because we didn't have a ready-made need that required a full business case evaluation. We can't wait because this project it has its own time limitation. So because of that, we said we will execute the long form of the standard BCE when we have a BCE to execute. But before that, we are testing the BCE, as Kathleen said, applying the criteria to all projects that we have, and we did apply. We had a number of projects. We present the result to sponsors, and based on the feedback we get from them, and because the volume of or the number of projects being big, we tweaked the criteria. And now I think Kathleen said that we have about 18 projects that satisfy the BCE criteria as it is now. And finally, I think the most important thing is whatever we do, always there is an overriding factor, which is the decision of the director or someone above him or her. The third part is making the improvement of the changes. We are planning to roll out the improved BCE process to the wider enterprise-wide operation departments as well as engineering departments this fall or this summer, and based on the input we get from them, also will continue. Always we are in continuous improvement mode. There are 2 steps for that. The first one is the outreach for all who have input in the CIP planning from various departments. So we need to create awareness, we need to create that trust and understanding of the new process. And then we have to demonstrate how the revised process fits into the existing CIP process. So those things we have to do. So there is an outreach. The other one is a training. We have a training department within our human capital management departments. We are working with them. We need to, identify employees that need training. If we need an outside source to help us with the training, we'll hire. But that will be a decision HCM will decide. And then after we give the training, then we receive the feedback, and then we continue to also improve on the training. So, so what's next? So our sponsors were very happy with what we accomplished over the last several months, but they want us, we propose, if we can continue with the CIP delivery process, just beyond the BCE, let's go to the CIP planning, the prioritization, and then the delivery. There, at least one of them voiced the support, the others didn't say no. But there is also another factor that came into picture. The first, that one is the equity. So we have to consider equity either in the BCE evaluation and in the prioritization. So probably it's most likely that we may engage in refining our CIP planning and prioritization as the next project. That's what we anticipate, and we are waiting for approval from our management. Finally, the lessons. What does this exercise taught us? The first one is collaboration. So the collaboration among various departments, I said 5 departments, created a sense of ownership. There was excitement, there was, people were willing to share responsibilities, so they contributed. We had workshops, great participation, and that was the reason why the project was successful. The other one is we also checked if the BCE could be used for non-CIP projects or what we call non-traditional capital projects. So there is an opportunity they may use this process either as is or by tweaking it for evaluation of various non-CIP projects like revenue generating type of projects. The other one is we haven't had a chance to incorporate finance and procurement in CIP planning, never before, but now the sponsors, we also believe the sponsors will agreed also to include finance and procurement in the team. They may not be voting, but they will be part of the BCE team because they give an independent input in the identification, evaluation, and selection of alternatives. So including the BCE owner, department director, and key stakeholder department director and the BCE review team improves the process as well as the product. So there is, so when 2 departments take part in the BCE evaluations, it always proves to give a better product than when it's led by only one department. So that type of arrangement or plan has also is expected to give a better product than the process that we use traditionally. And the last one is the escalation activity. Adding that in the process is very important because engineers see things from their perspective, operators see things from their perspective, and they may not sometimes agree on way forward. In that case, we should have an opportunity to escalate it to executive vice president or vice president to get a final direction. So that was not in the previous, in the current practice, but that's one of the things we introduced. And I think these are good lessons, in my opinion, that others can also benefit from. Thank you very much. I think I'm good with time.
Wow. Gitachu and Kathleen, thank you so much. You guys, wow, landed the plane and right on time. Really loved how you unpacked what you did and yeah, those lessons learned, really excellent. I was impressed with how you guys have really collaborated and engaged people within your organization in the process. So very cool, very cool. Well, we've got our next presentation lined up. I'd love to open it up for questions, but I guess if you have a burning question, write it down, get in contact with Kathleen and Gitachu. And yeah, if you saw something there that you're like, ooh, man, I'd really like to talk to one of those two. That's kind of what it's all about. So want to encourage that. And with that, I do want to make sure we leave enough time for Zanetta and Tracy to really unpack what they've been working on. So we'll transition and roll right into the next presentation. So Zanetta and Tracy, take it away. And if we have some time at the end for some follow-up questions or discussion, we can circle back to that as well. So
also you can enter your comments to the chat line so we can record them.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Cello.
Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Want to thank everyone for being here. I just got just a quick survey. How many people we have on the call that are not actually part of the work group, but outside from the other work groups? Do we have a quick assessment of who that is?
You can raise your hand if you're not part of the work group, but you are participating in this call.
Okay. Well, we have several.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try to tie this in just to give you just a little bit of background about our involvement for Louisville MSD. Dr. Cello can tell you that we have been involved since about 2016. We got in early, and to be frank about it, we've struggled in trying to engage our staff it's in a number of reasons. To get really focused and get buy-in from doing different projects. So we've been involved with the CIP. We've given some artifacts for asset management, enterprise risk, and then we have been involved with also with the workforce and the people part of it through this past year. Our executive director, Mr. Tony Parrott, is very intentional about where we're going in terms of our organization. And he sees that UAM is vital and critical to the success for MSD. And so we have that support. So particularly for this, we try to focus on doing capital project delivery analysis and model for us. And due to the time frame of the project, our presentation is going to be on our as is for capital project delivery. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty. There we go.
Okay. All right. So I wanted just to give you just some quick facts about MSD. We have a population of about 750,000 residents. We're a combined sewer system. If you've ever been to Louisville, in fact, Louisville is probably typically we'd be one of the most famous and upfront cities in the country all over the world this week because it would be Derby week. But we have a combined sewer system inside Waterson Expressway, which is our major loop, is a combined system, and outside of that is a sanitary system. We have 5 wastewater treatment plants. We're under $850 million consent decree, and this is really important and part of this presentation. And as of today, I believe we'll sign another to revise that with the Department of Justice. And so our focus for the last 10 years has been just doing consent decree projects. Our annual capital program includes about 150 projects with an annual spend about 180 million to 220 million. And we just signed WIFIA loan for, we'll have our second largest capital project will be our biosolids at our largest wastewater treatment plant, what happens to be the oldest in the state. It's in Morris Foreman, which is about 120 MGD plant, and it's 62 years old and it's on 35 acres. So we have two that are outfall to the Ohio River and rest to some streams. And then also in addition, we're implementing a proactive regionalization plan. So we're also acquiring systems outside of Jefferson County. So we really have a need to make sure that we review and document our processes in terms of project delivery. Next slide, please. So our approach, because of that, I approached our executive director, our chief engineer, about particularly focusing on capital project delivery. So we made this an overall objective as a research project. And basically what we wanted to try to do is to make sure we documented our existing process. We also were still, even after all this time, really explaining to our engineering staff about UAM and getting buy-in and recommending adjustments and improvements to our project delivery process. So we really had to spend some time. So that's where Ms. Tracy comes in from Hazen. Because of the resources allocations that we had, thought it was very, very important for us to get some assistance to get this driven and getting this done. And it was really to get someone that was totally not part of our process. She's not part of any of our capital projects, even though Hazen has been a huge part. They're our owner's advisor for our progressive design build project for the biosolids project. They've helped me with multiple other projects that we're doing. So they were a really good fit. So that's why I've solicited her help in this. One thing about COVID is that has allowed us all is that normally we typically would have had someone that was locally in the area, even on their team. But this allowed us, because we're in this virtual environment, for us to get the best possible person. And this is her expertise. And so we're very pleased with that. Next slide. So again, particularly for this project, we're just still following the methodology, is that we are going to break up this project into two phases. In our phase one, where we were just going to document our as is, we're going to analyze, identify our gaps and areas to improve, and then come up with our to be condition. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Tracy.
Thank you, Zanetta. And as Dan mentioned earlier on, and as you've seen on DC Waters, we started looking at the example model, and it does follow very well with the process that MSD has currently. And you'll see that as discussed by Dan and others, the stage 0 and stage 1, which really are the capital improvement planning and prioritization process, as well as the business case evaluation, was not part of our research project. So we've got X's through those. We really focused on the procurement services stage, where the project is handed over to the project management team, and then it follows through the steps all the way from cradle to grave of that capital improvement project and that project delivery. So it is I think that the UAM previous teams did a great job in mapping this out. It's an easy process to follow, and it was very helpful to start out with the core team talking about this, and then seeing how it matched with what MSD has. So our first steps really were with the core team, and we wanted to create a statement of purpose, essentially a project plan with the core team. And we needed to gather background materials. And the statement of purpose really is to provide the alignment, right? It's to provide the direction as well as the alignment. But we also needed to understand the process. So we needed to gather and review background materials. And we needed to understand who were the stakeholders and what type of tools were we going to use in order to go through this process. And so those were things that we worked with the core team on initially. And the statement of purpose, as Zanetta said, and as Zanetta very well through her work with the core team and with us, very much stays connected to MSD's vision and mission. You can really tell that that's a strong theme throughout the work that MSD does. And so we knew that this project, this research project, needed to focus and be aligned with MSD's vision. And really, this research project is rooted in continuous improvement. And that's the strong philosophy that you see at MSD. And as well, we wanted to acknowledge in this, as we went through the process, that the capital delivery process really is an integral part of MSD's mission. It has a key, it provides a key service to MSD, that capital project delivery. And so understanding the core values and keeping the core values as part of the project delivery process was important. One of the things that I found out that, certainly Zanetta knew and others knew in MSD, but I found out is that MSD has a very well documented engineering capital management handbook. It's very well documented. It's detailed. It goes through the process. It's very well structured. It has a nice structure from the throughout the whole life cycle, from the cradle to commissioning of a capital project. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be improved or that it's always being followed or that everybody even knows all of the different parts of it, right? And so the goal by the team was to figure out how we use this resource and how we use it better and what types of things do we want to see improved on it. And we really wanted to do that through the use of internal surveys, as well as through interviews and workshops. And, to document the as is, to review the process, to identify those gaps and opportunities. And then finally, to get recommendations, not only for future to be model, but also what other next steps should be on the list, right?
And just real quickly, just to bring out, well, how did this project align with our vision and mission? And it was critical in terms of getting a buy-in from our staff. So you have here, I won't read it for you, our vision, our mission, but I wanted just to talk about, when we talk about core values and how this project aligns is in terms of our employees, making sure that we're promoting collaboration and trust. And that was very, very key. When I was debriefing our chief engineer the other day, he was saying that even the core team still asked him 4 times, was this part of an audit? This is very, very critical in terms of customer service, because a lot of these the capital delivery projects, we've had times where we've had some non-alignment in terms of our customers. Prior to me becoming the strategic initial project delivery director, I worked in operations, and so the customer delivery also wanted to approach that. And again, other core values of public education, accountability, environment, and then all of this in terms of how we are being an advocate for our community, in terms of public health, safety, and protection. And all of this is all core. So that was why are we doing this? All of the things that we're doing with this research project aligned with our vision and our mission and our core values.
And Zanetta did remind me throughout the process about the audits and what other things go on, and so that I would understand when people during the interview process might question, well, why are we doing this? Or is this from an audit perspective? To really, so it was good, I think, that MSD chose to have someone from the outside help facilitate this process so that it could kind of dissolve or kind of put aside what are those current processes and the current, accountability type things that are going on already. This was a process outside of that. And by designing it that way, Zanetta was able to, keep it a little bit more separate or autonomous from kind of the current goings on and the current processes that are already going on, and truly look at it. The other thing was to call it a research project. That was again, something that Zanetta felt was important at the forefront of this, to help set the stage, to help people align with what are we trying to do here. We're really trying to research best practices, share best practices, and even innovate some new ways to do things. So first steps with the core team, background materials. I mentioned this engineering capital project management handbook. Again, really well documents the process, but there were also other artifacts like the monthly executive report, things that the core team members and the team in general uses to track their capital management process. In addition to, a lot of work with the core team really checked the progress of this research project and provided input and feedback all along the way. But we also needed to identify the stakeholders, and the core team helped establish who those stakeholders were. And the stakeholders were really used to inform myself, but also provide feedback. So inform myself of, what the process is, document that as is process, but also provide input and feedback so that when we went into the interviews with the stakeholders, we went in with some level of understanding and knowledge of what questions to ask. And then furthermore, we did online survey, and the stakeholder interviews definitely helped inform the survey. And whether it was in the interviews, starting with the interviews, we really focused on, asking questions to better understand the drivers that are helping the capital project process, but also what are the pain points, and not just stopping at what the pain points are, but further asking the participants to tell us more about this issue. To help diagnose and document ways to resolve issues. MSD and the engineering staff definitely know the process, and they hold the keys to unlock the answers, to unlock the solutions. But it does take, drilling down, and this research project, I think, was very helpful and very deliberate to undertake, to identify best practices, and then to share those best practices to leverage them throughout the organization. When we started out, this is just kind of a draft document that we used to identify the as-is process. And these are, checklists that come right out of the engineering handbook, and actually checklists that they are part of the engineering handbook process at MSD. And again, stage 0 and stage 1 were not part of this process. We really started once it was the project manager, actually at the initiation and procurement stage. The numbering here in the handbook didn't completely align with the example BPMN numbering, but this was right out of their handbook. So in this identifying gaps and improvement processes, we focused on interviews and surveys. So the interviews did help us to document. It helped us document the process and actually form it into a BPMN process model. But we also used the interview process to help identify the gaps and inform us of what type of survey questions we wanted to ask. So just a quick review about who was on the team. The core team was a smaller group of engineering and treatment operations staff. So I can't remember the exact, but it was about 6 or 7 people. Right. Including, and then in addition to that, myself and Zanetta as well. The interviews were really mostly engineering leadership and management, some project directors, or excuse me, some project managers, as well as consultants that are involved in the process. So the interviews were focused on people that had the direct responsibility for the capital program administration for the capital projects. Whereas when we did the survey, we wanted to have everyone that is involved in the capital project delivery involved in that process. And so it definitely included all the same people from the interviews, but it also included, you know, people from the controls central. It included people from operations as well as maintenance. It also included the collection system, even though for this research project, we focused more on the plant side of the process. But it included legal, it included procurement, it included community benefits and supplier diversity staff, as well as training and communication staff. This is an example. So we used MS Forms, which is an app that's actually available through Microsoft 360. And if you're using Teams, it's easily available, an app through Microsoft Teams. So it's a free app. The core team felt it was really important that the survey was anonymous. And that we provided, you know, and I mentioned who the survey went to, but that we included a cross-section of all the people that touch the capital project delivery. So there were a total of 29 surveys that were sent out, and we had a response from 18 people. And we also felt it was important that the survey was less than 5 minutes so that people could make sure that we got enough response. And so we stated that up front. We stated what the purpose was up front, explained what the goals are. We also wanted to put a statement in there that the survey had the support of management, and that, you know, the purpose of it was for continuous improvement and how can management help improve the tools and what the staff needs to follow through on MSD's mission and vision. So this is just an example of what one of the questions looked like. And this is the actual response and what the responses looked like. And here's another, there were some responses that were multiple choice. There were also some questions that were open-ended. And this is an example of an open-ended question. We asked, you know, can you give an example of where the current capital project delivery process really works, or what specific areas provide the most benefit? We also then asked questions like, where are areas that you see could have the most improvement, and what are your ideas for improvements to the process? And I won't read through these responses, but you can see places where the team felt were working well. The engineering capital project management handbook. The team had started to do electronic document signatures so that it would provide a more timely response instead of doing paper signatures, say paper approvals, and that seemed to be working well. Project monitoring, there's a very well thought out process for project monitoring and reporting at MSD, and the people involved with this recognized that that's working very well. That the process is set up for collaboration, that it's a very straightforward process, as I mentioned before. It's very well detailed and it flows very nicely. MSD has a series of gateway meetings that work very well, and the team acknowledged that those are going very well. So just an example of one of the questions. There were about 10 to 12 questions on the survey. Like I said, some were multiple choice, some were write-in answers. And I just wanted to do this is kind of the overview of the more detailed process of what were some of the repeating themes in the interview. Electronic approval process is needed. We could add debriefs to the process to better unpack what's going on with some of the projects and the process itself. We need to look at a design build model. How is it different from a traditional design bid build? We also need to look at small projects and how are they different in the capital project delivery process? So this was just interview feedback. I'll mention this one too, standardized documentation. I think there's a lot of standardized documentation, but it might not all be in a centralized place, or it might not all be shared throughout all the different project managers. So that was interview feedback. The survey feedback, I've collated it into 3, trends that we continued to see in that input and feedback that we received back from the survey under communication, under tools and processes, and under training. And under communication, as you saw in the interview feedback, and we also saw in the survey feedback, they're actually, the process is really set up for good communication through the gateway meetings and through other things. But there still needs to be more communication and coordination in the departments. And the need to have the most current set of data was a concern. And under tools and processes, some of that followed this a little bit under the same theme as the communication, on making sure that we've got the most up-to-date information, templates, document management and accessibility. And then training was a key theme also, that more training, not only for wastewater process training, but also actual training of business and project management, and even of the capital project delivery process. Some regular routine training of how the process goes would be helpful for new people, or even for just repeating and better streamlining of the process. And this information went back to the core team, and the core team after looking through this, the core team very quickly prioritized it. So they talked about it, but I think that the information, the core team really said, hey, we've got some key things that we want to do right away. And then we've got some things that might take a little bit more time, but we want to put as a key priority. So I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to let Zanetta kind of go through the next slide, because some of this is redundant from the more detailed.
No problem. Just to talk about our next steps, our research scope and desired results. We're going to finalize our as-is model. We're going to make some modifications and work on our to-be model. We're going to start that in our probably in July, after this fiscal year. We all are in agreement that the great thing about this in the review process is that there was anything that came out of this was not a surprise. So we still know that we need to do some additional training, have some more debriefings about projects, and then the handoffs. We're also going to review the design build process model. Our engineering handbook is really built on traditional design bid build, and we're moving toward more design build projects in terms of our basins. And again, like our largest project that will be that I've been leading will be a progressive design build project. So our phase 2 is going to be that we're going to evolve our DB process model. I know that one thing we've talked about is about small projects and really what those are. But for us, they seem to be bottlenecks a lot of times. So we get lost in terms of that, and it affects our larger projects. We're going to collect tools and templates. And we've already been working on the electronic approval process. So we're just going to review that. And then we're going to go pilot project. And that would be after we've come up with our to-be process, going to work on that. And then we have our long-term future goal is have a centralized workplace, a workflow space, for capital project delivery for communication, documentation, and status. As Ms. Tracy mentioned, we have a lot of documentation, but it's not centrally located. We do in our project central team, we have a dashboard that talks about how much our spend, because of course we do everything about debt. So we track how much and how effective we're doing that, but how we can place this, and then using the BPM modeling in terms of our dashboard so that you can find all those documents there. So outside of this, what is our desired results? We want to increase the use of the process, have people more aware about what UIM methodology is, increase the effectiveness of all the process across the departments, and then also improve the proficiency of the users. And just also note, we've made some, you wanted to point it out, make sure I mentioned this to you guys, that we've really have had some transformation even in the last 5 years. So we have centralized our project delivery in terms of a project manager takes the project from cradle to grave, because we used to separate out in design, and we're just increasing our cost of schedule. I don't know where we are on time, but if you have any questions, you have my contact information. You also have Miss Tracy's. One thing I wanted just to do, normally we are in these workshops, we are meeting in person and what have you. And what I'd like to do is, Dr. Cello, is there any way for us to have a track of all of the people who are on the call today?
Yes, I do have that information. Yes.
Okay.
Teams will provide it to me. I can send it to you.
That'd be great, because what we're going to do also, is because what I really appreciate you all attending today is, in the theme of it being Derby Week, somebody will be getting a Derby box. Okay, so it won't be funded with public funds. It'll be by me, and so you'll know that. But there will be somebody lucky winner here today for you being on the call. Will get something that may be bourbon related or something like that. So once the person gets picked, I'll reach out to you and try to get a theme so you'll get something that you like. Because I actually live here and I have never had bourbon in my life, so that wouldn't be fun for me, but that may be for somebody else. So we'll have a lucky winner. And again, I just want to reiterate, since we're recording, that no public funds will be used for your prize. But thank you guys for indulging us today.
Hey, nice work, Zanetta and Tracy. Great job. Just a couple things I just wanted to say. Great. I love how you connected the UAIM process to things you already have, your existing project management manual, and then the survey of engaging your stakeholders to really kind of focus your energies on where you want to, make improvements. That's great. So I already have a couple of takeaways for me. But yeah, put your questions in the chat. You got contact info. Feel free to reach out to them. And I'm going to transition right over to Scott and Cello. Are going to lead us through some interactive, get some feedback going here. So take it away, Cello and Scott.
Thank you, Dan, and everybody else. In the chat line, there is a link that will take you to the Mentimeter interaction platform. And I can also provide you, if you want to do it in your computer, the link is already there. If you want to do it on your phone for some reason, I will put I will share my screen so you will see the, give me just a second. You will see sorry, that was the wrong thing. Where is the, okay. I am a little bit, let me just see what happened with my Mentimeter. I'll be, oh, there it is. Okay. So, I can see that 5 people have already logged in, and as you're voting, we're going to go quickly through a few questions. And if you did not do it through a link, you want to do it through your phone, the directions are at the top of the slide. You go to menti.com and use this code to access the voting. Give me a little bit of a scare here where I couldn't figure out where my Mentimeter went.
Cello,
yes.
Just one additional thing. Dan made a comment about what we have on the line is people have been actively participating in the capital planning and delivery process, but we also have some others there. And this is intended, I think, to take everybody that's on the line and comment. These are a little more generic, not specific to project planning and delivery. And
Yeah.
this is going to be replicated in other workshops that we have also, so that we'll get a good cross-section of opinion on these questions that Chella's going to go through.
Yeah, so we have about half of the folks have voted so far. We have 3 more things to vote on and show. So I'll give it just another minute for people to respond. And let me just see if anybody has if in meetings, you can raise your hand if you're having any issues with accessing Mentimeter, so that I can see if somebody is sort of if I should wait for. Okay, how somebody shared their screen, and that was sort of not the intention, perhaps. Maybe my guess is that they wanted to go to Mentimeter and that they the chat, and they accidentally shared their screen. I'll just make that assumption. So again, we have 14 people now, so I don't see any hands up in terms of having problems with accessing. So I'm gonna go to the next question. And this one is going to be a little interesting. It will give you, for those who have been engaged in the effort, we're trying to get a sense for the level of effort that you had to invest versus the impact that you feel that of these activities. So we can, in the future, tailor the activities in such a way to minimize the impact and balance that with the effort that's required. So it's a little bit complicated, a little bit more complicated, but it'll give us a lot of data from this one graph. So for each one of these things, you'll say, well, it took a lot of work, and well, yeah, it had a good impact. And I'm still waiting for the first person to complete, but there are 8 items. So this one is a little bit more complicated, so we'll let it go. All right. Okay, we have some results from the first person. It just takes a little bit more. We have 3 people, but you can see it live how the pattern is emerging to help us understand, so we don't work on things that have no impact and require a lot of effort. Okay, we're up to 9, 10, 12. Well, I think the message we're getting is fairly consistent, that it takes a lot of work, but it has impact. We'll wait for a couple more, and then we're going to go to the next question, to just be respectful of everybody's time. We're almost there. Does anybody need more time? Let me know. Okay. Anybody need more time? Okay. Thank you very much. You see, we'll be able to see the range of these answers as well. So that's very, very nice. So we're going to go to the next question, and this is really for you to offer your thoughts. Just what went well, and what did not go very well during this past year. And you are free to just type in whatever, and say, this didn't work or this did work. So that way we can collect very quickly some ideas, what we have to, whether we should have used less cayenne pepper, or whether we should have, served some ice cream and stuff like that. So I'll give you a few minutes to, and there's only one after that. Just give a couple of minutes. Oh, that's very interesting stuff. Okay, we have a few. We have a few, that's really good. So the last one is really no reason to think much. And if you can just put in a word that summarizes your experience during the past year, whatever comes to mind first. And we'll just build a little word map, come back to Dan, and I think we'll need to then conclude the meeting. Whatever it is that first comes to mind. And if
so, I think you need to present so we can see the slide.
Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you. This is the third time, Jenny, that you're reminding me that Sorry about that. Oh, wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
All right, kind of a fun way to wrap up the meeting, watching these words pop up on the screen. So I've got 10:59, so I'm just going to say thank you to everybody that participated in this call. Remember, 2 weeks from now, we're going to do a couple more presentations to share from Metro Vancouver. You heard Zanetta talk about small projects. Well, Metro Vancouver is going to talk through their effort to work on small projects for capital planning and delivery. And then KC Water, our team is going to talk, we got kind of a two-part presentation. We're going to share what we've been doing on CIP planning as well as on CIP delivery. So